Hello, everybody. I'm not feeling so well today. I'm having not just a sensory day, but not feeling so well physically. But it's only my free time to give this informative speech. And I hope you guys all get the information that you need and you appreciate the way I perceive and talk about this topic. So, hello. To start off, my name is Mason. And I'm going to talk about the topic in which Indigenous people of the Americas should have the right to how they're portrayed and how they're perceived in media and pop culture, and but also the overall representations of them outside of those things, so in daily life. There are an estimated 476 million indigenous people in the world, and not just America, living across 90 countries. They speak overwhelmingly a majority of the world's estimated 7,000 languages, and uh, represent 5,000 different cultures, which I am personally part of. That I will get eventually. The United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People states that Indigenous peoples have the right to establish their own media and their own languages, to have access to all forms of non-Indigenous media without discrimination. People should and will control how they're portrayed and perceived culturally, and I totally agree. If I'm like shifty eyed or looking around, I'm having a hard time focusing, but I am going to give you this information that's important to me, to a lot of others, regardless. I believe anybody and everybody should have the right to how they're perceived, especially when it comes to race and culture. Because somebody with the background including Indigenous culture, me, I see family and people in media being portrayed in the wrong way. It's not just Indigenous people, but a lot or most of people of color that are portrayed in the wrong way, but aren't portrayed by the people that fit in the cultural racial group. It happens even around me. It doesn't just happen in the movies. So to explain further, I feel like I'm here not to just discuss people's place in perceiving and portraying themselves. But I agree with the point that Indigenous people and people in general should have the right and should be given the right to how they are portrayed and perceived in day-to-day practices, but especially online media and public culture. When it's more widespread, it causes more issues as a whole. Sorry. I do feel comfortable on this topic because I am part Seminole and Cherokee, Native American, but I also want to bring restrictions and accountability on the side of my family that may not be hateful or connected to hateful people and judgmental bloodline, but nobody around me specifically did anything to portray Indigenous people in the wrong way, but they don't take accountability for the past actions, even if they're not connected to them. And I feel like a lot of, people from colonial bloodlines and just people outside of Indigenous culture in general don't know and don't care to know what's happening. I believe it's not just false information about Indigenous people, but complete lies and misinformation that cause a harmful impact on not just Indigenous people, but people of color as a whole in America. I'm here to bring light on it, even if it doesn't impact people in my class, you guys, or people in general. But making a statement in general may not make me feel better, but it brings light in the first place. Talking to you guys might not go to a wider scale. Yeah, it might. But one day I hope to make that impact, like, purposely, and I want to bring light on it to you guys, even if it's not hundreds or thousands or millions of people. I care about your guys' standpoint, and I care about your guys' opinions. Throughout the generations, Native nations have celebrated their diverse histories, cultures, and traditions and presence. However, since settler contact, natives have been misrepresented and tokenized, and stereotypes in which ways that reduced or take their humanity and race their diversity. I've seen this happen to friends and family, and not just through social media or media in general. Excuse me. But people are being divided, and it's not just indirectly, it's directly. it can be both ways, but I feel like it's more directly to anything, which is, the sad part. So many movies are, and not just the famous ones, have shown tremendous and out of touch emotions and portrayals of many types of indigenous people, and not just indigenous people from the Americas. There are so many things that conflict with the true values, but there's so many things that aren't just mental information, but to guide you down the wrong path, or to not understand or even believe indigenous true values. And this comes from native.org, which is something I've used for past projects through my Native Studies class. With my own opinions, I feel deeply about this, but I also want you guys to get true information from people that are in the hierarchy and have a place and standing in the Native culture. Movies and media specifically don't just give false identity, but hide the true, I believe, the true values. We gain false information to trust informed narratives that don't exist, and not believe stories come from the person's mouth directly that are included in this culture. In addition to people being portrayed in false narratives in media, in pop culture, they most of the time are portrayed in false narratives in daily life and stories. It happens all the time, and I know people see it, but people don't take accountability or don't care. I've heard so many aspects and information from people about my own culture that neither don't exist, or a complete false narrative that hit some points but are the wrong points or non-existent points. I feel like even if you were trying to help but it's not true, it doesn't matter if it's not true. It just, you shouldn't talk about it. But I gain all the information. I respect all the information. It's really good that we have Native representation, because brown Native people are discriminated against. So having them highlighted in something I really enjoy, which is a quote from WOU.org, more specifically like Western media from that website. I do hope that there is a future in which there is a nuance in talking about natives, and I think that starts in classrooms, making sure teachers understand the Native identities are, which is another quote I really saw interesting and important, specifically because it mostly talked about false information in the movies like Pocahontas, etc., but also talked about how I can flee into daily life and true stories. So it's okay to like things that come from a factual standpoint, but have more of like a like, let me see, have a more, like nuance or a more positive or lighthearted feel. But in reality, these things aren't true, but it's okay to know those things aren't true and like them, and then appreciate things that are true. Even growing up with many indigenous people around me, I was able to watch movies and TV from various times showing me such similar things that I thought were real. For example, I thought Pocahontas was a princess, when in reality she was a child bride that was stolen from her country and eventually died and was forgotten by the people that she thought were helping her. I have heard so many things about different people that are included in this, and people don't bring light to it. People don't care. People don't care about people of color, or people don't care about indigenous people specifically. I think I'm getting the strength to just realize, but to speak up for my people. I don't like people telling me what to do and convincing them to do stuff, even if it's politically right. But in this instance, I'm tired. I'm tired of having to talk about this over and over again. Physical appearance doesn't make you a nationality. Physical appearance is a choice when it comes to how you dress and how you perceive yourself. And just because someone dresses a certain way or doesn't dress a certain way doesn't make them a certain culture. Wanting someone to look a certain way to prove themselves is also not okay either. People think you have to look a certain way or not to play a part, but to be included in nationality, when in reality, in my experience, most Native people I know don't dress in traditional wear. Just like nationality, everybody dresses how they want, not how their culture is perceived. And I got information or insight, but this is from me, but it's from the Indigenous Medium Political Imaginaries from Contemporary Bolivia. I might get the pronunciation a little bit wrong, but it's from a book from 1974 by author Gabriel Zamaro. But I really want to say that I'm not a savage. I don't own a bow and arrow, and I don't go to a powwow and eat fried bread every day. But at the end of the day, I am from indigenous lineage, specifically Seminole, which I hold dearly to my heart. But what I wear and what I eat and how I'm perceived does not make me my culture. I I I don't have to prove anything to colonial values specifically. As I can see, I feel like I'm already not feeling good. I'm already not good sensory. So topics like this make me more jittery. But at the end of the day, this topic, especially to people that aren't included in this culture, is important to inform you. Everybody's entitled to what they do and don't want to know, but I'm here to give you information that you could possibly conclude and feel knowledgeable about. But to each their own, and everybody can think and do what they want. So I hope you know that whatever someone tells you, you don't have to listen, but there is some positive reinforcements that come from that. But again, I do digress, and people are allowed to think and do what they want, but you have to realize it is damaging to these people. It may not damage you or your culture, especially when you come from Caucasian or colonial roots. But defy odds and understand your history and make history ongoing forward positive. Is what I'm saying, and the point I'm using and the sources that I'm giving you are going to give you insight, and I hope they are, into ways where you can help and or at least understand what you want to do with understanding and giving the right perception to indigenous cultures and media and public culture, but to people of color and people with high cultural integrity. I feel like you're not forced to do anything or care about anybody or want to help a certain person or group, but to at least be an ally, or at least to shut your mouth. I feel like if you have nothing positive to say, don't say it, and if you can't help or don't want to, it's okay not to. Just be who you are and don't exert negativity. As someone who is half indigenous and half white, there is opposing sides to what I can and cannot do on a daily basis, but at the end of the day, I am indigenous and I am white, and I can use both sides to help people understand and to prove the value and values and understandings, and the repercussions of things that will end and did happen. I am who I want to be, and you guys are who you want to be, no matter if you're gay, straight, polyamorous, indigenous, highly cultural, no culture, religious. Nobody's here to judge, and you should be able to do what you want to do. And I don't judge anybody. So I want everybody that is viewing this to know you are wanted, and you should be allowed to do what you want to do no matter what it is. Everybody, I hope, is staying strong. I'm trying to through this sickness, and I hope all of you have a great summer, and I hope you gain some information about my culture and how important it is to me. And don't let movies fool you on what culture is culture, and if it shows a false representation, or even if it doesn't, research and get some thought of mind. But again, I'm Mason, and it was nice to talk to you, and I hope you all have a great day.